Hello and welcome to Travel Days 2020, presented by the Italian National Tourist Board. I'm Huntley Mitchell, editor of Travel Weekly. Before we kick off proceedings, I want to let you know about a few house rules. You should be able to see the chat function on the right-hand side of your screen. Feel free to use this to communicate with your fellow attendees during each session. However, our moderator will boot out anyone who uses it inappropriately. So one strike and you're out. If you do decide to share anything Travel Days related on social media, make sure to include the hashtags Travel Days and Travel Days 2020. We'll be sharing a simple feedback poll at the end of the session, so please let us know what you think before you leave. Now, I'd like to introduce our speaker for this session. Sebastien Bazin is the Global Chairman and CEO of hospitality giant Accor, and he joins us all the way from Paris in France. Welcome, Sebastien, and thank you very, very much for taking the time to have a chat.
Ali, thank you for having me on board with you. I wish I could be in Sydney with you, but I guess I'm here in Paris. So, but thank you. Thank you for hosting me.
No problem. Just for those who don't know, Accor is one of the many hospitality companies that has obviously felt the heavy impact of COVID-19. So today, Sebastian's going to share with us how Accor has modified its development and growth strategy to come out of the pandemic a stronger and more resilient company, and also what this means for the group's future plans, particularly in the APAC region. So, Sebastien, let me start by asking you, what are your key takeaways or lessons that you've learned from the pandemic as a leader?
Quite a few, actually. The first lesson I've learned is accept you do not know much. So accept to have doubts. Two, even if you do have doubts, don't ever stop communicating with your people, because silence is the worst. They need to see somebody at the helm and they need to be in contact with you. Three, don't ever stress for what you don't control, because it is unnecessary and stupid. Four, always have positive energy to embark people, because they want to see somebody solid. So even though you have doubts, you can tell them you don't know, but don't look depressed, because that is actually depressing. And then paddle along. It's the bigger lesson is humility. I really felt until COVID that I knew pretty well where Accor was going, how to do things, methodology, human resources, pace. I realized that all of that vanished away in a matter of 2 weeks. But the biggest difficulty for me, by far, through that crisis, is having to accept myself to make a decision, which we did in 48 hours by early March, because we knew there's going to be total lockdown, confinement, closing of borders, that we have to send an email and we have to talk to general managers of 5,000 hotels and to furlough 280,000 Accor branded employees in less than 48 hours. And many of them with nowhere to go, no paycheck. It was unfair, total injustice. And I had no other options because my hotel were closing. That was the toughest ever moment for me, probably for my entire life. So I'll tell you how we coped with this, but I hope I don't have to do it again, and I hope every one of them will be back in those better years. But gosh, that was tough, because of course in European unions you have subsidies from French government for the Swiss, Italian, the German, and people lose their job, but they still have a paycheck covered by the state. That is not the case in Chile. It's not the case in Africa. It's not the case in Laos. It's not the case in India. So. Yeah, that was a total trauma. Trauma because unfair, absolutely unfair, and I need them. So sorry, that's so it's a long answer.
No, that's a great answer and an honest one as well. So, yeah, do you just want to delve a little bit deeper into that that kind of moment and how you went through it and processed it and I guess delivered the outcome?
Well, you know, it's in the position I'm in. The one thing you cannot do is ignore the fact. So whatever you're being hit with, just accept it. And you know, there's somebody who said, actually it's an astronaut called Bertrand Piccard. He said, if you're facing a crisis, If you accept it, it becomes an adventure. And you really defy it, it's going to be a total failure. So I decided to accept that crisis. And yes, make it a difficult adventure, but make it a moment where you have to pivot, you have to rethink, you have to, again, as I said to you, embark. So probably because it was so tough and because I had virtually no control over the elements and the epidemic, we decided with a few people here that it is time to open the engine of Accor and basically break it down. I mean, turn it upside down, the entire, and we cut in 7,000 different tasks, i.e. pieces of the engine, for 2 months between April and May. And I've never done that before, and I probably wish I would have done it before. Knowing better this company, knowing better how important is Australia, for that matter, versus Brazil or versus North America. How many brands account for what percentage? So, for example, we happen to be in 110 countries, and we happen to have 40 brands. And I knew a bit, of course, but you have 12 brands representing 85% of Accor revenues, and you have 20 countries representing 85% as well of Accor revenue. So doesn't mean you have to let go of the other 80 countries or the other 28 brands, because I would never do this. But it just helps you refocus, simplify your organization, and at the same time you're expanding, make sure you allocate resources and brand power on what matters the most. So, and the rest is work with government officials to make sure they reopen the frontiers as quickly as we could. And I miserably failed on this one, because I've been shouting and I've been trying to get some coherence between European Union's countries, and it's still not the case today, which I'm really unhappy about it. So it's really a matter of, and put a plan. The one thing is, when I talk to you about communication, is when you turn the engine upside down, it becomes clearer to you what you want to do post-COVID. How should you be pivoting? What's going to be different? You need to communicate it, and what we have done, we said in early August, not to satisfy the investors, but that company was too fat, not agile enough, too many layers. So we've announced in August and in September to cut the layers, which has a huge impact for you guys. We decided to cut the layer of all the regional officers, which has been the strength of this company forever, at least for the last 20 years. And that's another injustice, because Michael Eisenberg, who's been leading Asia Pacific for so long now, over 25 years, he's probably one of the most extraordinary hotel professionals I can think of, and loyal. And it's thanks to him that we went from 12 hotels to over 1,000 hotels. That's him. And irrespective of what I think of him and my Frenching and trust with him, the only way to have better agility is to be closer to the field. And decided that, I guess, we can't afford to have 7 layers in between me and a hotel general manager. We have to cut it to 5. And decided to really no longer operate on the regional offices, but go directly with 8 hubs. And one of the hubs happened to be Simon McGrath in Australia Pacific. So, and again, that's unfair for the regional guys, because they are great guys. So that's, and at the same time, and we can go back and forth with you on many questions, but you also know that the world's going to be different tomorrow, that you may stand to lose 10%, 15% of business travelers because of digital tools. We all know that those WebEx teams that we do today actually functions very well. So many corporate will probably tell their employees, for the first lead, don't travel, go on WebEx, and if there is something, then you travel. And well, that first non-traveler, that's probably very impactful for the hotel business and for Accor. So don't cry about it. This is life, and this is digital. So adapt to it. And by adapting, you have to think of what are the other sorts of revenues who could actually buffer what you may stand to lose. So let's go back and forth on all your questions. But it's I am a true optimist. I don't wish anybody to go through this crisis, and it's obviously not ever. And last night they've announced here a new confinement for another 5 weeks or 6 weeks. I don't know. It's again beyond out of my hands. But there is some blessing as a company to have gone through this. I think we have a better knowledge. We've created probably greater relationship and better empowerment with the teams. And on one last account, it's the one thing which for me is, it's extraordinary. is I realized between March, April, May, in a time of total despair and hotels being closed, I realized that the teams of Accor have been just exceptional in terms of initiative, solidarity, generosity, showing a hand to local communities, still preparing meals for those who are actually underprivileged. There's so many initiatives, of which 90% have nothing to do with me and the headquarters. He was just, and different one in between different continents. And that basically showed to me that urgent need to give the keys to those who know better, who are closer to the field. They don't need to be told what to do. They know better, and they're far more efficient not seeking permission. So the human value capital of Accor in between the 300,000 person of this company is just humongous. Humongous in the sense that I guess very, very emotional. So that's the one thing that I guess which is a blessing for me. I probably knew of it, but I didn't test it until then. I don't want to do it again, and now I know, so we don't need a crisis, another one to go through. But no, I've learned enormously.
Yeah. Okay. And just on that corporate restructure, which you announced in September, was that perhaps something that was needed anyway, and COVID kind of just gave it a little kick along? Like, was it a pure decision based on the pandemic?
No, oddly, you are so correct. It has, and I said it actually, which is true but confusing. That new reorg has nothing to do with COVID, zero. And it also has nothing to do with being better cost efficient. It's not a cost exercise. It's not a post-COVID exercise. It's just things that I should have thought of a long time ago. I did not because I was probably too comfortable. No, it's a, and you know, it's a, and I'll say that lightly. It shows how different Accor is from our peers. And we know better and we know worse either. We're just different. The American fellows, they are super strong, very efficient and damn good operators. But they decided over the last few years and accelerated with COVID to repatriate most of the executives and decision-making processes back home in Bethesda, in Washington, in London, Atlanta. We have done exactly the reverse, is to really lowering leaner headquarters and basically give power back to the locals. Again, different philosophy, but I think the miracle of Accor, if you think of it, and I'm still amazed, by the way, and I've been a board member of this company for 15 years and CEO for the last 7 years. The miracle of Accor stands on one thing. This is a unique company who's been enriching itself every mergers, acquisitions, new brands being initiated, and you probably know better, oddly, with Mantra, with Papers, with a lot of those brands that you have in the Pacific. Every time we basically open a country, we end up being stronger and being enormously respectful of the local communities, of the local government, of social laws, on the currency. Accor an ability to adapt, to accept, and to nourish ourselves from those 124 cultures that nobody else in the industry is able to do. So for the others, it's a pain. For me, it's a plus. It's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Okay. And just you were talking then about the different brands and segments. What brands and segments are the focus right now for Accor, I guess, overall globally, but also in the Asia Pacific region?
Well, you have basically 2 or 3 sets of brands. You have the global one, so those you can deploy, which represent, again, more than 50% of the network. That the very strong economic mid-scale brands like Ibis, Novotel, Mercure, Pullman. Those are very powerful, great traffic providers, great return for the owners, and an acceptable risk because you replicate something which works someplace else. So you have great KPIs and great benchmarks. You have the local brands like Mantis in South Africa, Rixos in Turkey, Mantra, Peppers in the Pacific. Those brands are very strong, very appealing, but remain local. And please don't go global with them because it's going to cost you a fortune and it's unnecessary. So preserve them as a diamond, but keep them local. And then you have another category of brands, which is today probably very important for tomorrow, is what we call the lifestyle brand, which Accor has been acquiring many of them. Those are the Mondrian, Delano, SLS, Mama Shelter, 25 Hours, 21C. Many of them you don't know, but you're going to, and those are 5% of Accor network, but already 25% of my signing. Why? Is because clients want, for the same pricing that they have with the mid-scale brand, they want to have a different experience. They want to put it on Instagram. They want to have better emotions to be sharing when they come back. And owners want something a bit more sexy, a bit more different. And that's difficult because you cannot be gimmicky. It has to be profound. And Tribe, by the way, Greet, Tribe was actually invented also in your region, and Tribe is an exceptional brand. So those brands are very much needed today, even though they don't represent much, because this is your future. So yeah, a lot of it is make those being global, those being local, and those where you know they are the demand of tomorrow. That's basically the way we operate.
Yeah, okay. And I know this is something that you've been asked again and again, but I have to ask it for our Australian audience. Is there any truth to the speculation of a potential merger with IHG?
No, there's no truth of it. I've been in the hotel industry or private equity for 30 years. And it's been 30 years that people have been telling me that IHG and Accor will merge one day. I've been waiting for 30 years. So no, it's at the end of the day, we are all vastly different in terms of culture, and many mergers miserably failed because of not accepting somebody else's culture and being arrogant. And the French, we're pretty good at being arrogant and obnoxious, and many things we don't like with the British, which is why we invented rugby, because this is the time we play and we actually box each other. But no, I have huge respect for IHG. And Holiday Inn, and they're working extremely efficiently. I think they have the same respect for us. No, it's a very interesting time now, Audley. Is you want to be bold because you're looking at the crash and money is made on the buy, and usually the best ever opportunities are during crisis. Of course, I know it. And Churchill did say, never waste a good crisis. Well, in the world of unknown and uncharted territories as we are in, with virtually no control over that epidemic and government officials, different decision-making processes, this is not the time to go on leverage. This is not the time to put your employees at risk. Just for me, it's a simple world. It's control the controllable. So focus on yourself, clean the mess, be a better company, be closer to your employees, your partners. Make sure health is first, family second, business third. And I'm saying it that way because I repeated it. It's tough because my investors probably hate me when I say this. But that's the way I feel, and that's the way during an epidemic you should conduct yourself. So yeah, they should be thinking of it them individually, then family, then business. So no, it is not the time to be bold and to consolidate. I'm not even sure it's necessary. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering it, Lisa. I appreciate it. Obviously, the theme of this conference is recovery and rebuilding a sustainable future. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected Accor's progress in becoming a more sustainable company and better in terms of its corporate responsibility as well?
Well, there's many angles on this one. We have, when it comes to CSR, we basically have 4 pillars and 2 priorities. The 4 pillars are obvious. Those are the stakeholders of Accor. What is it that you're addressing to your employees? What is it you want your clients to benefit from? What is the ask from your owners, so your real estate property owners? And how does all of this intertwine with local community? Those are the 4 pillars of Accor. And then within those 4 pillars, you have 2 priorities. One is focus on anything which is food and beverage waste, because that is a huge angle in which you have your hands on. And 2, whatever you refit or build in terms of new buildings has to be carbon-free emission, either from the outset or soon enough. because the largest emission of carbon comes from the real estate. I'm putting aside people taking an airline to come and visit, because that's called phase 2, phase 3, and that's beyond my control as well. So, and within those 4 pillars, those 2 priorities, the one thing in which Accor is, I believe, the best in many corporations beyond hospitality is whatever we do with your employees in terms of employees and local communities. Of course, we can do better. But I think the level of respect, the level of interaction, the level of working with the artisans, training. We've been hiring 80,000 people per year. Accor trains 100,000 new people every year, of which a third of those 80,000 we hire have no baggage, no education, haven't been to university, so no self-esteem. And Accor has the ability to offer them to join the kitchen, to be in the reception, to be working with the luggage, and all of a sudden they might leave you 3 or 4 years after, but that's okay, because when they leave you, they are a stronger, better person. And I told everybody, accept that risk, because this is why we actually help them at the beginning. So anything which is local community employees, I think we are, and we should be continuing that way, because this is the DNA of this company. When it comes to clients, the client's perceptions on the single use of plastic that we're getting rid of, and all those proofs items, yes, we actually went in. We're going to be delayed probably by 6 months on getting rid of all the single use plastic. You know why? Because the worst about the epidemic is the mask. All those masks are wrapped up in plastic film. All those hydroalcoholic gel is also in plastic. It's just unbelievable how impactful that epidemic will be on all the safety procedures to actually give proof to your client that, I guess, what they're going to be touching has been labeled and protected. So that one, we're going to have to cope with this, but you have to be draconian. You need to have a plan, and you cannot budge away from it. And then the last one, which is the most difficult by far, is owners. Because by definition, as of today, the quality of the material you need to limit the carbon emission happen to be more expensive than what could be used, what has been used for the last 25 years. So you need your owners to accept to join you on the ride, to accept to overpay by 5 or 7%. Some do, and some gladly actually embark on it, and some are resisting. And when they are resisting, there's only 2 options. Either you pay on their behalf, which I can't do because it's going to be hundreds of millions, or you really are draconian and you tell your owners that you are so sorry, they cannot be part of the Accor branded product. And again, that's a question of discipline. But for a lot of the developers of Accor and a lot of guys who know those people, it's difficult to say no to someone who's been your partner for 20 years. But we have to get there. If we don't get there, we're never going to be able to satisfy planet preservation, which is immensely needed and asked by the employees of Accor, by the clients of Accor. So it's not like something that you can resist. Just take it in your arms and yes, deploy it. So that's where we go. On the waste, on meals, that's been very well managed so far. We've been reducing the food waste by 50%. Too Good To Go, a big association that I guess we work with, on making sure that all the meals not being eaten is being really big in given and eaten by the local people. So that's actually, we made huge progress. On energy, we made progress on water, on making sure that some of our clients could accept not to have the linen and the towel being changed every day. If they do accept it, thanks to them, whatever we save, we've been planting 7.2 million trees over the last 11 years, which is very good for basically carbon neutral. So that's where we are. It's a mix of different blocks, different pieces, but you need a plan. If you don't have a plan, and if you don't have somebody looking over your shoulder, you're not going to be efficient. But again, I want that plan to be the same, but executed very, very differently between South America, your region, and Africa, because the execution is simply not the same.
Yeah. Oh, well, it sounds good that this whole pandemic hasn't thrown your focus off these important initiatives. I just want to focus a little bit on Australia now and ask you a question. Given the group's strong presence in Australia and the fact that our federal government has said not to expect wide-scale travel into and out of Australia anytime soon, what can hotel operators do to secure business in what is a purely domestic market at the moment?
Well, the good news is you have a vast market in size, and I would say that very different from France, but similar in the sense that you have absolutely everything people could be dreaming of within Australia, as we do in France for that matter. So the domestic market in Australia could be expanded. It's actually very strong. And we've seen it. We've seen it over the summer. The borders being closed, and we've been able to host a lot of staycation, a lot of people enjoying and probably not knowing the quality of what's around and the surroundings of Australia and Pacific for that matter. So I'm not too afraid. You know that I guess it's going to be 20-30% lesser traffic that not having the Korean, not having the Japanese, the Chinese. Of course, you know this, but it is a time to open up to local communities. You know, the one thing, or local neighborhood, the one thing I've been trying to tackle for the last 3 years and miserably failed, which is a problem, is I don't know why the hoteliers like Accor have been accepted something which is ridiculously stupid by being within CBD, within a small district, and perceived as an outsider. And we don't belong to the neighborhood. We don't even know the name, the last name of the pharmacist, the drugstore, the shoemakers, because we never introduce ourselves. And we never introduce ourselves because we're being only receiving, welcoming people coming from another country or another town. That is stupid. If you really want to be part of the club, and if you want to be of service and assistant, go walk over those 20 meters, introduce yourself to the shop next door. Because, by the way, they all know each other, except me. So this is the time to welcome local neighborhood, people living next door, because you know what? If you offer a good price, people could actually walk away 20 minutes and actually sleep with you on Friday night, because it's fun. It is fun. And then they wake up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they're having a wonderful time. And then so you're happy you hosted them. And they may come back once a month. It's good for the libido. It's actually much better than staying at your home. So that being the case, this is the time to be part of your local neighborhood. And this is not tough to do. It's just human capital and that willing to go and introduce yourself in a humble manner. So you know what? That's one of the other blessings. Yes, I need frontiers to be reopened. In the meantime, don't cry about it. There's nothing you can do. So just rethink of who should be your audience and offer them something they haven't thought of. And again, I'm not too afraid with those big geographies. You have everything. Let's make sure people visit it.
Sure. Okay. And another sector that's quite big here in Australia that Accor is heavily involved in is the MICE sector. And I just wanted to ask you about your forecast, I guess, for the future of business events globally, and where you see Accor fitting in the MICE sector.
The miles, you mean? What the mile?
Yeah, sorry, business events. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, the management. Okay, incentive, seminar, congress. Okay, MICE. We big into it. Certainly in Australia. We also have all the leisure actually on the Golden Coast. It's a question mark. It's something that which is being actually proven to be very strong in the months of September, October, November, all over Europe for that matter, and we have zero coming, which is devastating. We're going to have to revisit the way we host those 200 Congress. It's it's one of the things which is striking for me. For the last 20 years, even the chairs that people sit on happen to be the exact same one as 1987. The table look alike, the chairs look alike, the auditorium look alike. This is pathetic. So we need those congress, we need the seminar, we need to host them because it is huge cash flow and it is a buffer against basically the leisure business, which is more volatile. So it is non-incremental, it is essential, no question about it. So we have all the good Novotel, Mercure, Pullman, we have the large capacity hotel to be able to host them. But we need to put that fun ingredient, emotional ingredient, better human interaction. Graham Wilson is one of our best guys in the industry. Been working with Michael. Graham has been always able to provide that extra mile of something which is sentimental, emotional to all those events, and no one's been able to replicate as he did. So it's you're not going to be reshape a bit the spaces, reshape the design, reshape the material is needed, put more digital content into it because that's what people want, but it has to be totally rethought of. That's my belief. Tough to do though. Tough to do because you don't shock people either, huh? And people will not pay you more for those extra miles. But indispensable.
Yeah. Okay. Travel Weekly, the majority of our audience is actually made up of travel agents. How important are travel agents to Accor and its future growth, first of all? And also an issue that a lot of agents have been coming to us with is the challenge of competing against suppliers like hotels who are, what they say is undercutting them by selling direct. Do you think that's a problem? And how can, I guess, hotels like Accor incentivize people, customers, to book through a travel agent, and also incentivize agents to, work more closely with Accor and other hotels?
Oddly, this is a very, very good question. I've been saying for the last 7 years, and again, I'm not sure I've been successful either. I've been saying for the last 7 years that there's two camps. One are what I call the cold industry, which happen to be in the hands of Monsieur Alibaba, Monsieur Google, Monsieur Facebook, Monsieur Amazon. They never meet any of the customers. They actually don't even want to meet with them. And they are deploying fast, and they are scalable, and they're going to crush you. And you have another industry, which is a warm industry, in which you are the hotelier meeting your client. As a travel agent, you know your client, and that human interaction is essential. So travel agents are essential for that hospitality to breathe and to be able to be sustained. Essential. Because I want them to grow as much as they want me to grow. We need to not be depending only on Monsieur Booking, Monsieur Expedia, Monsieur Google, because if we are, we're going to have some very bad days in front of us. So whatever we can do to be shoulder to shoulder, not only to preserve, but enhance the scale, the size, the dependency, the level of information, the data, the post-mortem, how did it go with your client? What could have you done better? All of those, keep it, preserve it. This is pure diamond. So, and it's, so even, and for Accor, we have, and I push my people to accept the terms of travel agent. It may be a bit more than somebody else's, but they not only need to stay alive, because those guys are going to be the guy showing you a hand in the bad times. Don't ever expect the cold industry to show you a hand in bad times, because they won't, because they have the scale and they're going to go from one guy to the other in a minute. And I'm not saying that they are great companies, so I'm not against them at all. I'm just saying it's two different industries. So anything which is human interaction, anything which is local, even though they're small agencies, make sure they stay alive. Sorry, yeah. That's my 2 minutes on those two industries.
That's a great answer. Look, I'm just going to ask one more question. You've talked about a few things that you seem very positive about, but what is really keeping you optimistic right now at this time?
Only one thing. Well, no, many things actually. But I've been saying repeatedly, the hospitality sector, the tourism sector is a blessed industry. I will not change one word on what I just told you. It will be a blessed industry for the next 100 years. Why? Because people need oxygen. People need to put a smile on their face. People need to go and meet and learn about a different culture. People want to be able to be richer in who they are. And you only get richer if you move away from your home, away from your screen, and basically take a risk and be audacious and be daring. So, and the level of middle class population being able to afford travel has never been bigger. And again, that just 2 seconds, I shouldn't be, but I am. Airbnb is not the enemy. Airbnb is also helping a lot of people to being able to afford to travel. And they will not have travel without Airbnb, which is absolutely true. So it's that time will come back. The only thing we don't know hardly is when. My belief, sooner than people expect. I hate anybody who's been telling me, well, this industry is going to be back on its feet by 2024, should be shot. or at least should be working in another industry. That industry will be back sooner. It's probably going to be lesser airline dependent than you people think, because you would have actually built up those local community and local clientele. Accor is 80% intra-regional. So it was 1 billion for people traveling in 2019. It's probably going to be 300-400 million this year. I guarantee you it's going to be a matter of maybe 2 years, 3 years. We'll be back well above 1 billion. And this notion of opening new hotels, new brand, new experience, just make sure you move away from anything which is commodity. If it's boring commodity price only, you have to rethink over. But no, this is at best industry. There's many industry where they have structural difficulties and maybe dying, like the paper industry and others, because it is tough. Our industry is facing a sanitary epidemic. We're not facing a structural deficit. So yes, it will be back, and just fight for it and make sure it comes sooner than you expect. And make sure in the meantime, don't cry, don't be in despair, just act.
So, Sebastien, one thing I also wanted to know about is your progress with the All Hearters Fund. I know that's something that's very dear to Accor and very dear to you personally. So I'm just wondering whether you can fill us in on where that's at the moment.
Well, oddly, I'll tell you 2 minutes away how it came about quickly. Is in March, at the time we had to furlough 280,000 people in 48 hours, which I told you was just a disaster for me. At that time, exactly the same day, I had a board meeting, and I had to tell my board that, again, this is a decision I just made with the people, and I had to tell my board whether or not we're going to be pursuing paying a 300 million odd dividend for the year of 2019. And I decided 5 minutes before entering the board, I said, we can't pay the dividend. We have to basically preserve the cash. But I cannot leave 280,000 people idle, some of them without access to hospital, without access to being able to have food brought to their family. Those I've talked about in those underprivileged countries in which there is no state subsidy. So I told the board, please do me a huge favor. I'm recommending not to pay the dividend, but I'm actually asking you 25% of that 300 million, which is 70 million. Please accept that we're going to be creating a fund called All Hearters. And that fund will be made available for all those people being furloughed and all of them in need of cash because there's no aid from government. Can I please display that cash to make sure that, I guess, if they were to be hit by COVID, they could be accessing hospital, and if they were to be in need of food for their family, we could basically be an allocator of some amount. And it's been 7 months passing, and I'm in between very happy, relieved, and sorry. It's funny because it's the exact same feeling within the same initiative. I am very relieved and satisfied in some way because 45,000 people out of the 280 have been asking for the help individually in over 40 countries. And we obviously gave it to them. It was actually 55,000, and only 42,000 were basically allocable for it because others being asking for something they had already. And I feel bad because 42,000 people were in need of it. And probably many others did not dare asking. And I wish they will because we still have some money aside for them. So it's that notion of being able to be agile, active, and sharing. One day, and I'm not going to be making a book out of it because it is stupid and a bit narcissistic, but the notes, the video, the photo, all about GM received, me included, from those who've been beneficiaries of it, I can tell you, you cry within half a second. And you feel sorry you haven't thought about it the last 10 years. So, sorry, thank you for asking the question, but thank God we've done this.
Yeah, no, it's really good stuff. And you should be so proud of what you've contributed. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Look, it's been a pleasure having you today on this session, Sebastien. Thank you so much for joining us from all the way over the other side of the world. Really appreciate all of your insights into Accor's response to the pandemic and where it's heading in the future as a company. There's lots of exciting things still to look forward to. So we really appreciate everything.
Do me a favor. Since I can't travel, and a lot of my great executives happen to be in Sydney or next to you in Australia and some in New Zealand, would you please hug them? because whenever I go, I want to take them in my arm and hug them. I miss them. So whomever is working at Accor in your region, big kiss for me. I know it's not. I know it's not sanitary protocol. Doesn't matter.
No worries. I'm sure there's probably a few staff actually tuning in right now to your session. So I'm sure they'll get the virtual message anyway. But yeah, thanks to all of you as well who tuned in. We hope that you gained some useful knowledge and advice that you can apply to your own business recovery. But that's all from us today. So thanks again, Sebastien, and it's bye for now. Travel Day.
It was a pleasure.